The elite is now complete, or at least that is what they are telling us. Last night we had AEW Dynamite, and this show flew by, and it flew by on them as well, I think. Because we had a little bit of a timing issue, and unfortunately the main event of Minoru Suzuki and Jon Moxley got a whopping 8 minutes.
Yeah, there were some timing issues on this show, and there was one that apparently just ruined the show for a lot of people, which is a bit silly to me. But there's discussions to be made. We are very pro Tony Khan typically, but it needs a little work on timing out shows and on trying to do too much. Still trying to do too much. Need to learn to spread out things over that 3 hours a little better. But I think, like, I don't know. I feel like something just went long on the show. And somebody pointed out that like the best thing would be if MJF came out next week and took credit for going long, so they had to cut the Kaze ni Nare. And that's actually a great idea.
It would, because that segment went really long. And then we had a segment which was the Dan Lambert with the Men of the Year promo. They could have cut that for time because they didn't need to have that because it didn't set up anything.
It was unnecessary.
I mean,
they
could
have just, for all the good it did, they could have just aired that on Elevation.
Yeah, or put it on Rampage or whatever. It was like unnecessary for it to be on Dynamite.
I agree, it was unnecessary.
But overall, I thought it was a good show, and it was a good follow-up to the pay-per-view this weekend. And, of course, we had massive debuts of Adam Cole and Bryan Danielson, and Ruby Soho made her in-ring, well, not her singles debut here, so she got a match. No wrestling from Cole and Bryan yet, but I guess we're getting Cole next week. Not sure when we get Bryan's first match.
I bet it'll be at the tennis stadium, which, holy crap, that show was in like 2 weeks. Dang.
Yeah,
I feel like that's the Dynamite everybody's been looking forward to, and then like with All Out happening, and like with everything that's happened in AEW the last like month or so, it's like snuck up on us, despite being the thing that we were all been anticipating.
Yes. So before we get into recapping the show here, you are listening to the That's Wrestling podcast. If you're listening to this as a podcast, we do this show live on Twitch and on YouTube. If you follow the links in the show notes to those channels, follow those channels, it will alert you when we go live. If you have any comments, questions, feedback, you can shoot those to Eric at that'swrestling.com or follow us on the Twitter at that'swrestling1 with the number 1. With me tonight, I have back Trae. You can follow him at WrestleIsm on the Twitter. How's it going since I talked to you 24 hours ago?
It's good. I don't have any notes because I didn't know till like an hour ago that I was doing the show today, but
that's okay. But
we'll get through it.
Yeah, you were
I'll
telling me about
you
were telling me about all the exciting that you're gonna get to see at the New Japan.
Yeah, man, that I'm going to the Autumn Attack tapings in DFW. They just announced Robbie Eagles, we talked about on the show yesterday, and then yesterday evening they announced on one of the days Robbie Eagles is going to wrestle Jay White. That's going to be freaking awesome. And a match that I am extremely looking forward to, Yuya Uemura versus TJP. That's in my wheelhouse.
Yeah. So that should be a good time there. And of course, we were talking last night, New Japan. We got the G1 coming up starting a week from Saturday, I believe. Yes, a week from Saturday, the G1 starts. So this is kind of the busy point of the calm 2 weeks before the storm of New Japan.
God, I hope another freaking pandemic doesn't happen next year and we get the G1 at the normal time of year. G1 in fall just screws up the whole flow of my year.
Well, it was the Olympics, not the pandemic.
Yeah, but the pandemic was why we had it twice.
Right. But the Olympics did happen this time, so we should be good.
Did happen this time at least.
All right, so let's get into this show. They kicked off the show with a recap of All Out. There was actually a lot of different recaps of All Out on this show, and then we went into the match that was already previously announced of Malachi Black versus Dustin Rhodes. I thought this was a good opener, and it actually went a decent amount of time. I think I looked at the clock, and it was somewhere around 17 minutes into the show when this match wrapped up. So this match got more time than Moxley and Suzuki got, unfortunately. But that was fine. I'm not sure what they're going to do. We already talked about what they could have removed, but it's like, are they going to redo Moxley and Suzuki at some point in AEW? Because it feels like we kind of need to.
Yeah, I was actually like, and I don't know, like, there's some times that I think that, and we applaud Tony for sticking to long-term bookings. There have been a couple of times that, like, he should call an audible, and he didn't, and I thought, okay, I actually had the idea, and I wouldn't do this in a way that it would be silly, but I believe in this situation that it would work. Call the audible, have the TV time expire with them still fighting. Go, like, have the show end with them still fighting. And then Rampage starts with them still in the ring fighting.
That would totally work, and I totally was all for a time limit draw. I'm like, this is like 9 minutes left in the show. Time limit draw, let's do it so we can get Suzuki and Moxley again. But yeah, it would have been funny if they just picked up the match where it left off at the beginning of Rampage.
But there was, I gotta check my quote tweets and see who tweeted it. Somebody tweeted, it was it was the AEW Twitter account, tweeted a picture of Lance Archer and Minoru Suzuki, and says that they are both furious about the preferential hometown treatment Jon Moxley received at Dynamite, and that we will hear from Suzuki-gun next Wednesday on Dynamite, where they will issue a new challenge to Mox.
That's kind of funny, coming from Lance Archer, who beat Moxley in Lance Archer's hometown.
The thing that I want out of this, I'm hoping, praying, I need it. Suzuki and Archer versus Mox and Kingston.
Yes.
I need to see Minoru Suzuki fight Eddie Kingston. I need it.
I mean, there are some gaps in Suzuki's schedule when he's over here in the U.S., so there's some weeks in there that he doesn't have scheduled. He's got like a 3-week gap from like his last match in September to his first one in October, and I doubt he's going back to Japan just to sit around and turn right around and come back after having to sit in a hotel room for 3 weeks.
Yeah, I hope that he's just on Dynamite for a little while. You know, he's gonna be here for several weeks, like close to 2 months. Yeah, man. And that's the thing that's awesome about AEW, is that the way that people kind of cycle in and out and be featured at different times. Like, yeah, you can feature Minoru Suzuki for several weeks, and then he'll go back to Japan, and then you can feature something else. But there's just, I don't know, I feel like people complain a lot about it, the stupidest complaints about them, like, having too much talent. Well, because they space things out. They don't burn through things. That's why, dude, so many people, like, just have no concept of long-term anything, that it irritates me very much. But luckily, Tony Khan has a very good sense of long-term things, and AEW is awesome because of it.
Yeah, and I mean, this is one of the things I've been talking about even before AEW started. I thought it was something that WWE should do, is between every 12 to 18 months, you give a few wrestler. You obviously stagger this throughout the year, but you give a wrestler 3 months off. They don't have to do anything. They just need to heal up and all that good stuff. You get 3 months off, and then we'll bring you back. It's like that's something that they instead of just running them ragged for 10 years straight.
Which the other thing is that with AEW's schedule, like guys don't wrestle like all the time. I mean, you've got like the young guys who kind of need reps are getting to work more. They get to Dark Innovation. Apparently, the first AEW Dark taping at Universal Studios is on the 11th, Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm really excited for that because something that I love, even though like I wasn't around for it exactly, but I've gone back and watched it, and I did see a little bit, but like WCW Worldwide and like Later Day Saturday Night, I love that stuff. Love looking back at it, and Tony Khan also loved that stuff, and that's what he's trying to capture the feel of with these Universal Dark tapings. So like and I know a lot of people were really excited for that. Man, just wrestling is really fun now.
Yeah, we haven't even touched on the match where we're going. All right, Malachi Black versus Dustin Rhodes. Dustin goes right after Black with some strikes and tosses Black to the outside. Dustin actually ends up getting suplexed through the timekeeper's table. There was a lady at the timekeeper's table that I have no idea who she was. I don't know if you caught that.
Sorry, I muted to blow my nose. No, I don't know who it was either.
Back in the ring, Black removes a turnbuckle pad. This will come into play later. They strike back and forth. Black works a choke and then a heel hook. Dustin gets to the ropes to break up the heel hook, and Black hits some kicks to the leg. Black basically toys with Dustin a little bit. Dustin comes back with some strikes, snap power slam for a 2. Black blocks the destroyer. Dustin turns it into a roll-up attempt, though. Kick out at 2. Black slips out of the corner and hits another kick to the knee, and then a running knee strike for 2. And then Black goes to the outside, goes under the ring, and he grabs something from under the ring, and it's Cody's boot. And this just pisses off Dustin, so Dustin fires up, hits some strikes, hits the Canadian Destroyer for a 2 count, and then that gets him a "you still got it" chant, and then Dustin gets tripped into the exposed turnbuckle head first and eats the spin kick, and Black gets the win. Little bit of a clunk on the finish here because that spin kick clearly hit Dustin just right in the bicep.
I don't know, man. You ever kicked really hard in the bicep? I might stay down too. Bell to bell. This match was 9 minutes and 52 seconds, and it was the longest match on the show.
Which is a rarity for AEW.
Yeah. I don't know. This was because there were a couple of kind of extended like in-ring talking segments, which I thought were both fantastic, but it just something didn't time out right on the show.
Yeah, they probably needed a cut. If they're going to have so much talking, they needed to cut a match, I'm guessing. So, but, we've kind of seen this in the past. 5 matches on Dynamite tends to be the best, but they have done 4-match shows where, Jericho had a long segment. The debate with Orange Cassidy would probably be one of those shows that they might have only had 4 matches, something like that.
Yeah. And the we had a 6-man tag with the Pinnacle and Dark Order later that was sub 5 minutes bell to bell. That like that's gonna think that like you maybe call the audible and say we're gonna do that on Rampage instead. Yeah,
that definitely probably. Yeah, that definitely would have been the one that I would have moved. And you could have just put in a quick like 2-minute backstage with that instead of dealing with all the entrances in the match and all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
So the end of this match, Black kicking Dustin in the shoulder. It was a little bit of a letdown, but the commentary did cover it pretty well because Dustin did get tripped face first into the exposed turnbuckle. So they basically said, well, he's pretty much already out on his feet anyways, after eating the turnbuckle to the face. So
yeah, thought this was good. Largely.
Yeah. Next up, we had a quick backstage with the Lucha Bros. They say they're finally the AEW tag champs, and Penta gives his, and Alex says, Penta says, these championships have cost us blood, sweat, and tears. If anybody is willing to step up and take the title, they can come after them.
Penta's belt is still covered in blood. And somebody said on Twitter, and I think I kind of agree at this point, I just want it to stay that way their whole reign.
Mm-hmm. That'd be pretty funny.
Man, that's that fucking cage match was so awesome, and it's really, really cool to see those guys with the tag belts, and yeah, looking forward to their tag title reign.
Apparently, that was the first match Nick had ever gigged himself.
Really?
Yeah, huh? He's gotten blood before, but it was all hard way, and this time is the first time he purposely did.
Wow.
Yeah, we're like being in the business for like over 10 years at this point.
But closer to 15.
Yeah.
Maybe a little more now, yeah.
All right, we come back from commercial. We have Eddie Kingston Miro video, and Eddie says, hey, you and me, Miro, we started it off, and we went at it like men are supposed to, but then you go and use a low blow. Anyone who knows anything about God knows he has no favorites. Everyone knows when it rains on the just and unjust all the same. And Miro says, Eddie, you said we would walk through hell, but then you found out that you can't hurt a man this hot. I had to ice my balls too after that. And then he says, I'm going to offer broken bones to my bride and your soul to my God. So it looks like they're going to play this one back.
Yeah, this was cool. This was a great little segment to keep the thing alive. It was it was Sunday night, Monday morning at some point. Miro tweeted, consider your nuts redeemed. And then CJ Lana quote tweeted Miro and said, I'll redeem yours when you get home.
I love them so much. They're great.
They are hashtag relationship goals.
Next up, we have CM Punk. He comes out to the ring and he says, all right, we're just going to get to it. I want to thank Darby and Sting and all of you. I come out here and I'm not going to lie to you. I didn't know if I still had it. I didn't know if I had what it takes. But it's like riding a violent bicycle. There's a "you still got it" chant, and then he says, and you know what else we have? We have Suzuki taking on Jon Moxley. I'll be watching that. He calls out Brian Pillman Jr.'s aunt, who raised him after his dad passed away. She's in the front row.
Yeah. If you watch, first, I love the violent bicycle line. But yeah, love, and especially since it set up something later. But because if you didn't watch the Pillman episode of Dark Side of the Ring, like, that lady really is like a fucking hero. Because, you know, Pillman had three or four kids, and like all by different women. And it was like one of the mothers had committed suicide, and then like I said, Brian Jr.'s mother had drug issues. After Brian died, she was the one that like, I think one of the children lived with her mother, but like I think she raised Brian Jr., raised the other sister that was there with her, like, and made sure to, like, you know, keep the family together and made sure that the kids saw their other sibling. Like, she really is a fucking hero. So yeah, kudos to Aunt Linda. She's great, and it was awesome to see her get her flowers here, as Punk said.
Punk brings up Ruby Soho, Adam Cole, Bryan Danielson, He says that he texted his wife April, and she said, well, what's next for you? And he said, I don't know. I guess I'm going to ask all of you what's next for CM Punk. Everybody starts chanting various things, and then Taz interrupts all the chanting people and says, hey, here's the thing, tough guy. I'm tired of all this bullshit love fest. And he says, keep Team Taz guys out of your mouth. And he's like, I didn't say anything about Team Taz guys. and Taz is like, well, you've been saying stuff on like social media and all your media that you've been doing.
Taz is... It's so funny because Taz will say like some ridiculous shit that somebody will make a crack at it, and he sells it like Taz would. Like he's kind of flustered, but he knows sells it. Like the line with Christian with the when Christian said bingo hall money, and Taz goes, no other money. This was that same kind of energy.
Yeah, he just needs to come back with something, and it doesn't matter how outlandish it is. So they go back and forth, and eventually Punk has said, well, okay, whatever, send me Starks, send me Hook, send me Hobbs, all four of you. And then he throws back the line at Taz, the classic, beat me if you can, survive if I let you. Which is great.
That was good stuff. I think we've read to mention the commentary team was... JR, Tony, and Taz. Excalibur was not there this week. He's getting married, apparently. So congratulations to Excalibur.
Yes, that is why he was not there. Next up, they had a Santana Ortiz video. Basically, they're just talking about now that they've beaten FTR, that they're ready to go after the rest of the teams in AEW, and that they're the best. And Santana asks, prove us wrong, boys.
Yeah, definitely desperately want to see them versus the Lucha Bros. I think probably looks like on Twitter maybe they set up a match with Private Party because Private Party tweeted that you never beat us here. So apparently they've beaten Private Party before, but the Private Party wants to be beaten in AEW. So
alrighty. Next up, we had Tony Schiavone with Ruby Soho. Tony is asking why Ruby offered up an open contract for a match with her, and she says that she issued it because she doesn't want people thinking she's just walking in here and is taking things lightly. Britt and company come in, calls Ruby the flavor of the week. Ruby says her and Britt go back a long ways, and she actually is one of the ones who got Britt into the business. Ruby talks about all the nicknames that Britt has and says that that's just to hide who she really is and what she isn't. And this is now Ruby's block. And Britt tells her that your nickname, the Runaway, why don't you run away back to catering where you belong and where you've been for the past 4 years? And that got a big old ooh from the crowd.
Yeah.
And then says Jamie's gonna kick your ass courtesy of Britt Baker, DMD, and they leave. And Ruby says to Tony, I know she's your girl and all, but I'm gonna go whip her ass.
Yeah. Yes. This is good. I love Ruby Soho now. I talked about it she's great.
The one thing she does, she has a slight nervous tick that I caught up on. She uses the lip smack. She goes, and then says something and then says something. But that's fine. It's just something that like really stuck out to me for whatever reason. I'm sure I do it too sometimes.
Yeah.
Powerhouse Hobbs versus Dante Martin was next, and this match seemed to have gotten one of our Discord compatriots on the Dante Martin train. He is warmed up to all the crazy stuff Dante Martin can do. Dante Martin first just gets run over by Hobbs, but Dante uses his speed and a drop kick that sends Hobbs to the outside. He hits a tope, but Hobbs ends up catching him and tossing him into the ring post. He gets thrown into the barricade a couple times. Hobbs throws Dante back in the ring through the top and middle rope. He basically does a hip toss from the floor through the top and middle rope, which was awesome.
Yeah.
Dante
Martin is great, and this was a great This was a great showcase match for both of the guys in it, which is really rare and awesome.
Yeah, I don't know when this happened. I wrote they got the heat on Dante through the commercial, but there was a time where Dante went for a tope suicida and he dived out. It might have been the dive I was just talking about. He dived out and Hobbs caught him and Dante hooked his feet on the middle rope so he didn't continue flying. And then Hobbs like pulled him out of the air and hit something on him. It was awesome.
Yeah, also the one where he was about to do a dive and then Hook was standing there, so he jumped he ran and hit the ropes and was gonna jump over Hook, but of course Hook ducked. But I believe he probably could have cleared him if he'd wanted to. I
probably got him pretty close.
Not that I blame them for doing that, but that was another great spot.
Yeah, Hobbs pulls down the knee pad and drops a knee to the gut, and then he kind of hits some shots and then misses another one. Dante hits a short 619, hits a massive shotgun drop kick, and then a running senton off the top, or drop kick off the top, senton, and then pump kick sends Hobbs to the floor. Dante sets up for a dive. Hook jumps up on the apron, so Dante comes to a stop. But then he turns around, hits the ropes, and dives over Hook onto Dante. Dante hits a few kicks and some strikes until back in the ring, Hobbs hits a massive spine buster and gets the victory. I only watched the match once, but I heard on a different podcast that that Hobbs was a little wobbly. It looks like he got clocked for real at one point, but I didn't notice that.
I didn't either. No, hopefully he's all right.
Yeah, they said he's fine. It was just he was a little got a little loopy for a second.
That's good.
Next up, we had a Dan Lambert promo, which was ultimately meaningless as it didn't really set up anything. He just runs down AEW hiring short people. Basically, he's WWE's mouth person in AEW.
That a mix and a mix of all the Jim Cornette tropes.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know, it kind of, and again we talked about for all that they did with it, it's kind of at this point it's kind of taking up TV time and they're not doing anything with it. I assume eventually that they will, and this is one of those things that they are, because they'll start to build something before they start to do it on Dynamite, because,
mm-hmm.
they're good at booking and storytelling. So I assume that something will come of this. I don't know, it doesn't do anything for me, but at the same time, I appreciate it because it pisses off people whose anger entertains me.
Yeah, he's a really, really good talker. It's just this one particular promo was just unnecessary for this show because it didn't forward anything. It was just more of the same. So I'm sure they're going somewhere, but this particular was just a rehash, basically.
Hope it ends up with them bringing Cain Velasquez into AEW. That'd be cool.
That would be a huge, a huge coup right there, especially because he wants to wrestle Lucha Libre style.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember, Triple Mania 2 years ago, Cody, Cain Velasquez, and I think Psycho Clown was an actual team that was in a match. It was bizarre.
And didn't Cain wrestle in a mask?
He came out in a mask, I think.
But he didn't wrestle in one.
Yeah, no.
Then we have a short video package. Matt Hardy says that he's going to cut Orange Cassidy's hair. He's going to shave his head. And Orange Cassidy is getting some notes from Chuck in his ear. And then he just says, Matt Hardy says he wants to cut my hair. Whatever. So it looks like we're going to have a hair match at some point with Matt Hardy and Orange Cassidy. And that's going to be kind of weird because Matt Hardy has had long hair for the past 25 years.
Kind of cool, though, if it would actually, because presumably Hardy's going to put him over, so that'd be that'd be kind of a big cool thing to do. Maybe Matt's ready to cut his hair, doesn't want to be the old guy with long hair, and is actually gonna make something out of it.
Yeah, I am still waiting for my Orange Cassidy versus Kenny Omega match.
Keep waiting, I guess.
Next up, we have MJF coming down to the ring. This was a ridiculously long promo, so I cut out a lot of it. He comes out to the ring, and he is greeted to "You tapped out" chants. And then he says, well, let me explain something. Before Sunday, I beat Jericho 3 times, and then on Sunday, I beat him a 4th time. And after the bell was rung and my music was playing, the match was restarted because of a bias against me. A bias against me because everyone wants to be me. And then he runs down Cincinnati for a while, makes fun of Brian Pillman's daughter in the front row. Brian Pillman Jr. comes out and says, he heard you talking down my hometown and my family. And I'm here to tell you that this town breeds badasses. Brian Pillman, John Moxley, and me. Brian Pillman Jr. is from the streets of Cincinnati. And then MJF runs down Brian Pillman's mom and calls her Methany instead of Melanie.
Yeah, that was fucking stiff. It was great. Fuck.
Pillman runs down to the ring and Wardlow gets between them, and then he basically MJF says, yeah, Wardlow, why don't you just go stand over in the corner and look pretty, and help out just like you helped me out this Sunday, which means he didn't help him out. So furthering that story some more, then MJF runs down Mom some more, and then they start fighting, and Brian Pillman beats up on MJF because Wardlow is standing in the corner looking away. And then he turns his head and he's like, oh, I guess I should help out. So he helps out for a second. Pillman gets by him again, and Wardlow is just like slow to bother going and helping again. But eventually Pillman starts getting beaten down. Then Griff Garrison comes down to try to help, but he gets knocked out with the Dynamite Diamond ring. And that was pretty much the end of that.
I will say what I say about a lot of these segments. One day, Wardlow is going to turn babyface, and it's going to be amazing. Mm-hmm. So did you... I guess you didn't see this. I'm going to read a tweet from Brian Pillman Jr. In a bizarre turn of events, the encounter between my pregnant sister and MJF sent my sister into contractions late last night, and she's expected to have a baby today or tomorrow. And then MJF quote tweeted, I destroyed this inbred family so bad even the fetus wanted to be as far away from it as possible.
Oh man, they're so good. I'm sure all that was cleared before he said that to the family, because there was some pretty harsh stuff that he said.
Yeah, surely.
Next up, there was a short Moxley and Suzuki video promo. Nothing special, mostly Moxley saying, you're in my hometown now. You in the jungle, you gonna die.
Moxley is having so much fun.
Yes, he is. Next up, we had Jamie Hayter versus Ruby Soho, Britt and Rebel at ringside with Jamie. They start off working some holds. They trade some impact moves. Ruby gets tossed outside of the ring. She's thrown into the barricade. She gets dropped on the apron. Ruby hits some kicks, but Jamie comes back with a spine buster for a 2 count. Ruby gets tossed into the corner. Head first into the corner a bunch of times, eats a few stomps in the corner as well. Ruby catches Jamie coming in the corner though with her legs and does her pull-in face smash into the corner spot. I don't even know what to call that at this point.
Pull-in face smash into the corner spot.
All right.
Pulls right off the tongue.
Yep. She hits 3 running kicks to the back of the head, hits a rebound DDT, and Jamie sets up Ruby on her shoulders, and Ruby falls backwards, and I'm not sure what was supposed to happen. I'm not sure if Ruby was going for a Poison Rana, and Jamie's like, I'm not taking a Poison Rana, and like this was not cleared between the two of them before it happened, because the Jamie eventually falls over on a kind of a weird crash.
It was wonky as shit, but the way it turned out, like it almost looked the way she ended up kind of like dropping her, face first. Like it almost looked like maybe she meant to do that. So
I mean, it worked out, and Ruby went right into a cover so they could talk to each other to figure out what the hell they were doing next. It didn't send things off the rail. It was just a really kind of funny spot how it was going. It's like she was going for a poison Rana, and Jamie's like, "I'm not taking a poison Rana. We did not talk about this."
Isn't it funny how two good workers are not completely derailed by one spot going wrong, that they recovered immediately?
Yep, it was fine, and then Ruby hits the Riot Kick, which is basically a Pele kick, and I don't know what they're going to be calling it, because they didn't call it anything, and gets the victory, so Ruby wins her first match in AEW.
Yeah, I think JR called it I've seen that kick before.
That would be a hilarious name for the move. I've seen that kick before.
That move needs a name, and the Black Mass needs a name.
Yep.
I'm just gonna keep calling them their old names until I'm told otherwise.
Post-match, Britt, Rebel, and Jamie beat up Ruby. Riho runs down, but Jamie takes her out. They set up for a stomp on the belt to Ruby, but Statlander runs down with a chair for the save. And this is going to set up a match that gets announced in a little bit. Oh, crap, and I did not write it down. I did not write down Dynamite and Rampage coming up.
It's I don't think you had time to.
They went so fast!
Yeah, that was when they were like, oh shit, something went long. It's Jamie Hayter, Rebel, and Britt against Ruby, Chris Statlander, and Riho.
At Rampage?
At Rampage, yeah.
So Ruby wrestles twice in the same night.
Yes.
Because that was also, that was recorded as well. So that's kind of fun. Jamie and Ruby wrestle twice in one night.
And apparently the Pac Andrade match was fucking great. So
that's what I heard as well. That. Yes. There's a Ricky Starks Brian Cage video. Nothing special. Looks like they're hyping another match between the two of them.
Yeah, and apparently Brian and or his wife are making a scene on Twitter about how he's being misused. So
seriously? How is he being misused? He's been fine. Like, he hasn't been, like, abused or anything like that. I mean, he's been... Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
That's a little overblown right there. Next up, we had the match that we were talking about earlier that they could probably nixed and done on Rampage or just put it on Dark or something. FTR and Shawn Spears versus Stu Grayson, Evil Uno, and John Silver. There's a little bit of an inset promo when Dark Order's coming out to the ring. There's an inset, and they're basically arguing, and Anna Jay comes in and says, guys, we're a family, but you guys need to figure this crap out. And that was basically it.
Yeah.
Tully and Wardlow came out with FTR and Spears, so they're at ringside. Silver and Stu tag each other in and out because they don't want the other one to tag in. Silver starts off though with Spears, and he's holding on to Spears, and he's going back to his corner to make a tag, and he reluctantly tags in Stu. Dark Order work over Spears a bit. Dax tags in and fights with Silver. Silver hits a brainbuster and then has to fight off all of the Pinnacle guys, and he hits a few kicks to Dax and a German suplex with a bridge for 2. Uno is trying to get back up on the apron, and Silver gets run into him. We get some triple teaming from the Pinnacle, and then Spears hits the C4 on Silver and gets the pin. And then Evil Uno, who was taken out on the floor, gets all up in Silver's face for losing, and all the Dark Orders start fighting out there, and then Anna Jay and Ty Conti walk out, and Anna Jay is giving Stu the evil eye because Stu has a thing for Anna in BTE land, at least, and does whatever she tells him to.
Yeah, just make like, I don't know. Here's a stupid idea for BTE. Have Anna just do the whole. There's a great Rick and Morty segment where Morty is ranting at Summer about getting her shit together. That I think you should just quote verbatim because that would be very funny to me.
That
Get
would, yeah.
Get it together. Just take it to a shit store and sell it.
that is such a good rant. I remember that rant.
It is. It is.
Next up, we had a women's battle royale recap. Basically, a few comments from various women. Mostly, it's setting up Anna Jay and Ty Conti versus Bunny and Penelope Ford.
Yeah,
looks like that's going to happen at some point. Was that announced?
Not that I remember.
Yeah, I'd have to check. Like I said, I didn't write down the rundown of the cards for Rampage and whatnot. So, all right. Next up, we had Tully is with Alex Marvez, and he's basically calling out Darby Allin for Shawn Spears, and basically says that Sting is using Darby, something like that. And he also alludes to a match with Sting and Tully being in the same match together. So is Tully gonna wrestle in a tag match again?
I mean, I could see them doing Tully and Spears against Sting and Darby.
I mean,
if they must.
I mean, it wasn't awful when Tully wrestled last time, so I'm not as down on it as I would have been if I didn't see the previous match. So I think he's okay because as long as they work around his limitations, then it should work out fine.
Yeah, I mean, it's my stance on matches like this is if they must, it'll be fine.
Alex is with the Varsity Blondes backstage and asking dumb questions about how they feel when they're in the training room getting iced up and taped up and all that fun stuff. So Pillman, he challenges MJF for a match at Arthur Ashe Stadium. The Acclaim come in and Caster says that, hey, you know what? I have a match with you on Rampage.
So yeah, those are the three matches for Rampage. Pillman and Caster, the women's the 6-woman tag, and Andrade and Pac.
Yes. So I know Rampage at least, but I forget what's coming up on Dynamite next week.
Spears and Darby, and that's all I remember.
Okay.
Adam Cole and Frankie Kazarian.
Yes, that's the other one I remember. Then Tony introduces the Elite, and they come on down to the ring. The Bucks are limping their way out because they are still all beat up. All except Adam Cole come down to the ring. Dawn steals the mic away from Tony as usual. Says it's a great night to be here with Kenny Omega voted number 1 in the PWI Top 500. And he says that, you know, at All Out, the Bucks gave the fans the best cage match in history, but in that pursuit, the belts were stolen from us. But don't worry, they're going to get them back. Nick grabs the mic and says, talking about getting stuff back, we have our best friend back. And Adam Cole's music comes out, and he comes down to the ring, and he then says, who's ready for story time with Adam Cole? But first, he goes over and stares Tony Schiavone and says, look, I know that you're good friends with Britt Baker, but if you look at her the wrong way, I'm going to smack those glasses off your face and whoop your ass.
What I took away from this is that Adam Cole is afraid of being cucked by Tony Schiavone. No, I don't know. I guess it was just to firmly establish him as a heel. What I think would be funny is that, like, you know, the next time Tony talks with Britt, like, Britt will say something like, I told him not to mess with you. And then anytime Tony and Cole are in, like, the same kind of segment, Cole is, like, just polite enough to not get called on it, but he's really being a massive dick to him all the time.
Yeah. I that's probably going to be an ongoing thing. He's just going to be a dick to Tony in general.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be an ongoing thing. So Tony leaves, and then he says, All Elite Wrestling, the greatest wrestling company in the world, and you know why? Because of these guys in the ring. All of this is thanks to the Elite, And I know I'm new to AEW, but I've been elite for a very long time. For almost 14 years, I've traveled everywhere. I've won championships, and I've proven that I'm a once-in-a-generation wrestler. And the Bucks, they're the best tag team of all time. And Kenny Omega, he's a once-in-a-lifetime wrestler. And the AEW championship proves that. And now the Elite have Adam Cole. And now the Elite is complete. And if you don't believe me, just wait until next week when I make my in-ring debut. And then Kenny says, now this calls for a celebration. And as much as I like to celebrate with all of you, there's one thing I really despise. And that is interruptions. At the pay-per-view, we are interrupted by... And Bryan Danielson's music hits. So Kenny is all pissed off. So Bryan makes his way down the ramp. And he's standing just outside of the ring. And Kenny says, all right, guys, can I have the room? Can I have the room? I need to talk to our new guest here. So... all the Elite get out of the ring and Kenny stays in and he invites Bryan into the ring. Bryan gets in the ring and Kenny says, hey, you were the guy I just wanted to speak with. And if you don't mind, let's cut down to brass tacks. And when he says that, Bryan grabs the microphone and says, hey, quick question. Do you guys want to see Bryan Danielson fight Kenny Omega? And then the crowd is, of course, chanting, yes, yes, yes. And then he says, oh, he's telling me that that's not how it works around here. And then he says, you say you're the greatest wrestler who's ever lived? No one is on your level? You know what? I think you're afraid to take this match because I'm better than you. I will kick your head in, and you are not on my level. So they start brawling. And Bryan puts on the label lock and Kenny starts tapping out. But then the rest of the Elite come in and beat up Bryan. And then we have Jurassic Express and Kazarian and Christian all coming down to help. And they beat up the Elite. And then they're all in the ring. And Brandon Cutler is crawling through the ring. And he realizes that he is surrounded by hostiles. And everybody in the crowd starts chanting, you fucked up, which was great. And then Bryan kills him with the knee.
Yeah, that was beautiful. So I like the idea of Kenny just refusing to even consider a match with Bryan. So you actually, have to do, because that's the thing about AEW is that they don't need to screw up. Everybody has to work their way up. Even CM Punk, even Bryan Danielson. Unless it's, there are like a couple of times a year that somebody has like an opportunity to kind of come out of nowhere. And you've got the men's casino battle royal, the women's casino battle royal, and the February tag team battle royal. And that's perfect.
Let's see. I'm trying to get through, see if there's anything else for Dynamite that I can see on their feed, and I don't just in a quick scroll. So we already talked about it. It's going to be for Rampage. You have the 6 women. Then you have Pac and Andrade, and Pillman versus Caster. So we go on to the last match of the evening, and this is Jon Moxley versus Minoru Suzuki. And as Trae stated earlier, they had to cut Suzuki's music short, and that was a bit of a bummer.
Yeah.
So they start throwing they stare down each other, and then they just start exchanging forearms. And then they exchange running boots, and they're just laughing at each other. And then there's a "fuck 'em up, Moxley, fuck 'em up" chant, which is kind of funny. This crowd was clearly for Moxley in this match.
Yeah.
They fight on the outside. Suzuki runs Moxley's arm into the ring post a few times. Suzuki works a Kimura, some chops from Moxley, a few kicks by Suzuki, a massive clothesline from Moxley. And Moxley hits a suplex for 2. Moxley then catches a penalty kick and bites Suzuki in the face. Suzuki then bites Moxley in the face. They exchange headbutts, and then they double headbutt each other, and they both fall down. Then they throw forearms when they're on their knees, working their way up to their feet. Moxley avoids the Gotch pile driver, hits a paradigm shift, and then a lariat. Suzuki kicks out at 1, and I have no idea where this happened, but Suzuki is bleeding like crazy from around his eye.
Yeah, I think he had to get I think 7 stitches.
He must have caught an elbow from Moxley a little too flush.
Yeah, must have been.
He eats a few lariats, and but then he hits Moxley with a drop kick. He goes back to the sleeper, but Moxley gets out, hits a few punches, hits a Death Rider, and gets the win. And Moxley goes celebrate with the hometown for the last 3 minutes of the show. And we're trying to figure out, okay, there's 3 minutes left. What's going to happen? And nothing happened. It's just Moxley celebrating with his home crowd.
Yeah, some timing issues, but you know what? A guy got to wrestle a dream match in his hometown and win, and then celebrate with his adoring fans. That's I don't think you can look at this as like anything bad. It was, a little bit mistimed, that it could have been better if it had been timed out different, but unless the Suzuki's theme cutting off a few seconds sooner than you wanted to just ruined your whole fucking life, this was a win.
Yeah. This was a really good episode. Of course, they did keep Moxley and Suzuki to the end, which is the right way to go when you have a big main event like that. That draws in interest, but of course, they also left the Elite and Adam Cole for the end as well, and Bryan Danielson for the end right before that last match. So they held up pretty good, and actually ratings wise, they had the highest viewership, the second highest viewership of all time, and they beat Raw in the rating.
They beat Raw in the 18 to 49 demo, which is the one that counts. But yeah, holy shit.
Yeah.
Now, all of the people who will not stop betting against AEW, no matter how many times they prove you wrong, are moving the goalpost again. But this is a big fucking deal.
Yes, it is a giant deal, and I'm curious what happens when all these TV contracts come up, because I think AEW and WWE's contracts come up basically at the same time.
That's gonna be interesting.
I think TNT does have a 1-year additional option on them, so it might push it out for an additional year. But I think they're basically within 12 months of each other. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, this is you know what? I tweeted last night. Like, it's at this point, AEW is undisputably the number one wrestling promotion in the world, because they fucking promote wrestling. The other people are sports entertainment content creators. They haven't given a fuck about promoting wrestling in decades. AEW is the wrestling company. Wrestling promotion.
There was also news that Kevin Owens' contract comes up in January 2022, and he has already been teasing that he's planning on leaving. Essentially.
And imagine that you're Kevin Owens and you see all of your friends having the time of their lives. Wouldn't you want to be there too?
Yeah. And at this point, I'm assuming, because he seems like a stable guy and a relatively humble guy, that he hasn't blown a ton of money and he has banked basically everything. Because he still lives in like the same house that he lived in when he was in ROH, right?
He's like And the other thing is that apparently, like, people are making comparable money in AEW to what they're making in. I mean, now that WWE isn't just, because they had that thing where they were just being ridiculous and, offering the Good Brothers like $750,000 a year.
Mm-hmm. Just to cut them 6 months later.
Yeah, exactly. The game is different than it has been in a lot of people's living memory. And that's the thing that, like, I think people like us kind of forget, is that a lot of younger people have never seen a competitive wrestling industry in the United States.
Yeah, and there's actually a big difference between the previous competition of WCW, where WCW was getting wrestlers because they gave them a shit ton of money, whereas AEW is getting the wrestlers because they want to be there.
Yeah, that's the big... And people have pointed out, like, yeah, people who are like, you know, Punk, who are like, I fucking hated WWE, it was miserable there, I didn't want to be there. That's one thing. But now, you've got people like...
Or same with Moxley. Moxley didn't even look at the offer that they gave him. Like, he has no idea. They could have offered him like $1.5 million a year, and he didn't. Yeah, he didn't even look at the offer.
Yeah, I remember him saying, I think it was on like when he did the Jericho podcast, like, what if they offer me $10 million? What am I going to do with $10 million? Right. My house is paid for, my truck is paid for, my mom's house is paid for. I had a train of thought that I had lost that was on this same thing. Oh yeah, that's one thing. The guys who blatantly did not like you there, but now you've got guys like Adam Cole and like Bryan Danielson who's like, no, they were good to me. I love Vince. I love my time there. I wanted to be here. And that's, I think, even more telling. Because, like we said on the podcast yesterday, happiness counts for a whole lot.
Yes, definitely. Anything you want to touch on before we wrap it up here? I thought this was a really good show coming off the pay-per-view, and now we're going to see what continues, and I'm guessing that the Arthur Ashe show is going to be huge. I did see the announce Malachi Black versus Cody at the Arthur Ashe show.
Oh, yeah. We didn't even remember to mention that. But yeah, that's I wonder what's going to happen there.
Yeah. Should be a good one.
Yeah. Check out find me Wrestleism on YouTube. I have finally started to... I was streaming Fire Pro Wrestling World on the PS4, and I got to the point where the save file got too big, and I couldn't add any more edits or custom music and stuff, and that was completely unacceptable. So I got the Steam version going, and I finally got OBS set up so I can stream and record that. Haven't streamed with it yet, but I have started to. If you check the Wrestleism YouTube, I've started to post. It's kind of a silly timeline thing that I'm doing, but I'm starting with wrestlers from the Pioneer era, and I have uploaded Savart Frank Gotch defending the World Heavyweight Championship against French wrestling legend Paul Pon, and also against Yusuf Ismail, the original Terrible Turk. And so yeah, if you like silly Fire Pro simulation videos, check me out on YouTube.
All right, fun. Thanks everybody for listening, and if you are listening to this as a podcast, head over to the YouTube or the Twitch channel so you can see us live and join us in the chat. We tend to do the AEW reviews the evening after whatever show, so we will be back for Rampage on Saturday evening, most likely, assuming what I'm about to work on tomorrow evening, which is some network stuff for a school I work for, and hopefully it does not go to hell like it did last weekend, and I will be fine for Saturday. There's a link to our show notes, the link to our Discord in the show notes. Comments, question, feedback, you can send those to Eric at that'swrestling.com. Leave a review on your favorite podcast app of choice, and I believe that's pretty much... Oh, you can follow us at That's Wrestling 1 on the Twitter, and follow Trae at Wrestleism on Twitter as well. So for Trae, my name's Eric. You've been watching and listening to That's Wrestling. See you later, guys.